Hi, my name is Nir Eyal, and I am a behavioral designer as well as an author of two books, Hooked, How to Build Habit-Forming Products, and most recently, Indistractible, How to Control Your Attention and Choose Your Life. Yeah, so indistractable is a made-up word, and the beauty of making up a word is that you can define it any way you like. So the definition of being an indistractable person is a person who strives to do what they say they're going to do. Now, this is, I think, the skill of the century because there is no area of your life that doesn't depend upon your ability to sustain your attention and your focus. How we spend our time is how we ultimately spend our life. And so it's absolutely critical that when the world is bifurcating into these two types of people, people who let their time and attention, their lives be controlled and manipulated by others, to be one of the people who don't do that, who says to themselves, look, I decide how I control my time. I decide how I control my attention because I want to decide how I spend my life. I am indistractable. So that's what becoming indistractable is all about. It's about following through on the things that are important to you, living out your values, and not getting distracted by all the things and people out there that want to take you off track. Yeah. So first we need to understand what is distraction really. That this is a word I don't think I properly understood before I started this line of research. So the best way to understand what distraction is to understand what distraction is not. So think about what is the opposite of distraction. Most people will tell you the opposite of distraction is focus, but that's not really accurate. The opposite of distraction is not focus. The opposite of distraction is traction. That if you look at the origin of the word, both words come from the same Latin root, trahare, which means to pull. So traction, by definition, is any action that pulls you towards what you said you're going to do, things that are aligned with your values, that help you become the kind of person you want to become. The opposite of traction is distraction. Distraction is any action that pulls you away from what you plan to do, anything that is not aligned with your values, anything that pulls you farther away from becoming the kind of person you want to become. So this isn't just semantics, right? This really matters because I would argue that any action can be traction or distraction. How many times have you sat down at your desk in the morning and said, okay, I'm not going to get distracted. I'm not going to procrastinate. There's that big project I have to work on right now. Nothing's going to get in my way. Let me get started. Here I go. But first, let me check some email, right? Let me check that one thing on my to-do list. Let me do everything but that thing I said I was going to do, even the stuff that feels work-related, right? Checking email, that's a work-related task. I'm being productive, aren't I? Well, you might be, but that is still a distraction. By definition, if that is not what you plan to do with your time, that is a distraction. And I think it's the most dangerous form of distraction because what we're doing is we're allowing distraction to trick us into prioritizing the urgent at the expense of the important. So everything can be a distraction if it's not what you plan to do. And conversely, anything can be traction. So I don't agree with these chicken little tech critics that tell us that, oh my God, social media is addicting everyone. Technology is hijacking our brain. It's rubbish, silly. None of this stuff is bad for you. If you want to go on social media, if you want to watch YouTube videos, you want to play video games, great. There's nothing wrong with this stuff as long as you do it on your schedule, not somebody else's. That is how we turn distraction into traction through forethought by planning ahead. So it's very important we understand the difference between traction, anything that you say is what you want to do, things that you intend, things that are aligned with your values. Everything else is a distraction. So now that we have traction and distraction, we have to ask ourselves, what prompts us to take these actions? Well, we have what we call triggers. We have the external triggers and the internal triggers. External triggers, these are the usual suspects, the pings, the dings, the rings, all of these things in our outside environment that can lead us to traction or distraction. But that is not the leading source of distraction, right? As much as we complain about those things, that is not the number one source. The number one source of distraction is not what is happening in our outside environment, but what's going on in our own heads. You see, most distraction begins from within. These are called internal triggers. Distraction, procrastination, not following through, it's not a character flaw. There's nothing wrong with you. It's simply that we haven't learned how to deal with these uncomfortable emotional states in a way that leads us towards traction rather than distraction. So whether it's too much news, too much food, too much booze, too much football, too much Facebook, it doesn't matter. All of it is about a desire to escape these uncomfortable emotional states. So now that we have this model, to answer your question, the way we become indistractable is by following through on these 4 steps. So number 1, mastering the internal triggers, understanding what is that discomfort, boredom, anxiety, fatigue, loneliness, stress. What are we looking to escape from? Then number 2, making time for traction. You cannot call something a distraction unless you know what it distracted you from. Number 3, hacking back the external triggers. Of course, these technologies are hacking our attention. That's what they're designed to do. But that doesn't mean we're powerless. We can hack back. And then finally, number 4, preventing distraction with pacts, making promises with yourself and others, using technology, funny enough, to prevent us from getting distracted. So this is how we become indistractable, these 4 basic steps. Yeah, so I think it would be that the antidote to impulsiveness is forethought. The antidote to impulsiveness is forethought. So fundamentally, when we talk about what takes us off track, I've been a CEO now 3 times, and the job of a CEO is only one thing. What you have to do as someone who's starting a company is just one thing: prioritize. That's all you got to do. Just prioritize. Everything else will take care of itself if you know what to work on first, then work on second, then work on third. When I talk to, I do a lot of angel investing, I meet with a lot of entrepreneurs, I can instantly tell who's not going to be successful by who can't prioritize well. And part of the reason people can't prioritize well is that they're constantly distracted, right? This is why I took 5 years to write Indistractible, because this is such an essential skill. And the solution for how to stop getting distracted is to understand that we can do things today to prevent getting distracted tomorrow. That's why I say the antidote to impulsiveness is forethought. That, you see, the human animal has an ability like no other creature on the face of the earth. We have the power to see into the future with higher fidelity than any other animal on the face of the earth. We can predict what is going to happen better than any other animal. And so all we have to do is to decide, how do we not get distracted from our priorities today so that we can make that impact in the future. And it doesn't matter how good the algorithms are, how crazy the world is, what's happening in the news, all that stuff. If we take steps today, we can prevent getting distracted tomorrow, because the antidote to impulsiveness is forethought.